Celtics Talk Podcast is presented by 24AutoGroup.com. 11 locations across New England.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Celtics Talk Podcast here on the NBC Sports Boston Podcast Network. Yes, it's an actual edition, one down and downshift from all the games and all the post-game pods that you guys have been gracious enough to listen to, and just turn the spotlight on the fact that the Celtics are the best team in basketball, and 12-3 through the first 15 games, now winners of 8 straight after taking down the Atlanta Hawks on Wednesday night. So what I had to do, I called up Eddie House. I said, Eddie, we got to talk about this start. I got 8 questions about this 8-game winning streak and the state of the Celtics. I want to take his temperature on what this team is accomplishing, where it can go. Are there any concerns about what we're seeing? Minutes, about, other teams in the East? And I'm gonna be honest, Eddie's pretty bullish, as anybody who's watching this team probably should be. So let's get right to it. Here's me checking in with Eddie about this 8-game win streak. All right, Eddie, Celtics 8 in a row. So I got 8 questions for you.
Let's do it.
Let's start with, what's the biggest reason for this 12-3 start?
I think they came in prepared and ready. Thinking about last year, how they started off so slow, and then they had to climb themselves out the hill, and they had to climb themselves out of a hole, and then they finally started going and stacking wins. They just picked up where they left off last year, and I think it stung them, like from top to bottom. I mean, it stung us that they lost the finals. We were expecting them to actually win it, so I think they just put a lot of work in the summer, and they were like, hey, they're not going to take anything for granted, not one game.
And it's crazy to me because, it's clear with Jason Tatum, how much it hurt him and how much he wanted to come back a more complete player. But like you said, from top to bottom, they're winning different ways. They're able to catch themselves in ways they didn't last year. It's been really impressive to see just the maturation from that finals loss and what they took away from it. We can't be all positive. What's your biggest concern lingering when you watch these games?
Well, the biggest concern for me will be is the rebounding, because offensive rebounding, they've been getting up tonight, for example. They gave up 14 offensive rebounds. Yeah. Granted, there were a few that were bad bounces and things like that. But the key thing that I did look at, they had 14 offensive rebounds they gave up, but they only had 13 second chance points off of them. That's a possible 28, which means even though you're giving up them offensive rebounds, you're still getting a stop, And so, that's the one concerning thing, because when you get into playoffs, you can't give anybody extra possessions. I do like the fact that we've been taking care of the basketball. Yeah. We haven't had too many live ball turnovers or just bonehead mistakes. We've been pretty solid with the basketball.
And that to me is crazy. There are some concerns, but the fact that they went from how much were we ripping our hair out in the finals about the turnovers?
All playoffs.
Yeah, all throughout the whole playoff. Yeah. And yet, I think they were second in the NBA coming into the game against Atlanta. And so they've really put an emphasis on it and shoring up areas that they were lacking in. I'm still a little bit worried about the defense. I think they're still lingering in the back third of the league. But, Rob's going to be back eventually, and I feel like that'll tighten that up. What the question is, the good thing, I guess, is they've been able to lock in various games. That end of the Oklahoma City game, at times in that Atlanta game. I'm not as worried about the defense as I was probably a week ago.
Yeah, me either. I think the first, handful of games, I was really concerned about the defense. But I think they have been gradually getting better on the defensive end. And like you said, they've been closing out quarters when they have to, getting the stops when they need it, and then they make the right plays, and you could tell that they're playing for each other. So, and Jason Tatum is a big part of that, and Jaylen Brown as well. But Jason Tatum, going to get blocking shots and things like that, making that extra effort, it's so easy to play for and with a guy like that.
All right, number 3, who is the most impressive non-Jay so far?
Man,
there's so many candidates.
I will say it's a long list. I can't single one out because every single game is somebody different. We've had Malcolm Brogdon games. We've had Peyton Pritchard games. We've had Sam Hauser games. We've had Derek White games. We had Grant Williams games. So I think that's
giving me 08 vibes, because you guys had as good as KG and Ray and Paul and all that. There was the Eddie House games in there. There was Leon Poe games in there. That's important.
That is huge. I mean, because every night you're not going to get that. You're going to get something from your superstars every single night, but you have to have the bench play. I mean, there's not one team that's won a championship that didn't have depth, that did not have guys that came off the bench and provided a spark in some way or some fashion, whether it be defense, whether it be offense. So I think I can't single out one, because again, I think it's been a different guy almost every single night, and they're doing it in different ways. That's the most impressive thing.
Yeah, like I want to give Marcus Smart a ton of credit, but then Marcus Smart not out there against Atlanta.
I forgot about Marcus Smart the other night. It was a Marcus Smart game. So I mean,
it is really wild. It's like I love posing that question to people because you have so many choices. Just like who's been the best bench player? Like don't put that on me. Derek White's been great for stretches. Like I can't answer those questions. So good on them. We didn't even say Grant Williams, who's been making $1 billion corner threes.
And that's almost asking somebody like, who's your favorite kid? It's hard to, kind of.
You have a real answer. No, I'm kidding.
No, I don't.
Actually, I love them.
I love all three of mine, Caden and Jalen.
They're very at times it's about who's on your nerves the most. That's why, that's how
they're just like our guys.
Yeah.
It all depends on the game. All depends on the day sometimes.
All right, number 4. What is your biggest takeaway from watching the first 15 games of the Joe Mazzulla era?
Well, I think that each game he's been getting better. Yeah. I think first off, it was a thing of is he managing the clock? Right. Is he managing the game?
The timeouts were maddening this time.
And I think he's got a hold of that. Mm-hmm. He's understanding, starting to. It's almost like know when to get in, when to get out, like double dutch. He's trying to finally get in that rhythm right there. So, and then on top of that, I think the other thing, not only growing in that way, but also pressing the right buttons, being like, hey, let me take Grant Williams off the bench and let me start him. Let me put Derek White on the bench, take him out the starting lineup. And
put Peyton Pritchard in the third quarter of that Oklahoma City game for a spark. Like little things.
He's pressing the right button. So, I mean, I'm seeing growth. And again, this was a well-oiled machine. The foundation was already laid. He's just going to continue to build on that. And I think he's doing a great job. He's not getting in the way of this team at all.
Did you have a go-to gum when you were a player?
No, I didn't chew gum. Chew gum. No, I didn't chew gum at all. Are you telling me my breath stank right now?
I was the one chugging coffee in the green room. So it's just funny because he gnaws at that gum.
Oh man,
I said, do you remember bazooka gum as a kid?
Yes,
but a lot of people started.
But that would get hard though.
And right, so
your jaw start hurting.
He had to find and Abby has some great report too, saying he only eats 2 pieces a game, one to start. I mean, it's amazing that it lasts.
It does not have any flavor. By the time the half is up, it has zero flavor.
Zero flavor, but you're just working through the stress of being a coach. I think she said he chews Pure gum or something like that. So if you're Pure out there, Pure, you need to get that sponsorship going. Number 5, any concern with the minutes? And we say this coming off the Atlanta game where they actually got decent rest for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. But in the grand scheme of things, they've made a priority to play their guys because Mazzulla is prioritizing a good start. At what point do we say okay, that they got to get Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown out of the top 10 in minutes played?
Well, you look at if they build a significant lead, or if you're not number 1, you're number 2 with a nice cushion, and you're not going to be, figuring out where you playing for seeding at the end of the season. You already kind of locked in, and that. But I think the one thing that we could take from this is how well the bench is playing. And it's been stretches where either Jaylen or Jason has been one of those guys, have been out there with 4 others. But tonight there were 5 guys that were on the court, and Jaylen and Jason weren't, and they held their own. So if they continue to build that trust with Coach Joe Mazzulla, then he can lean on that and give those guys longer breaks. Believe me, coaches want to do that. Mm-hmm. They don't want to play their guys like that if they. Well, a lot of times your hands, right? You know what I'm saying? Your hands are tied, and you have to literally play your guys. So if they continue to build the bench the way they build on how they've been playing, then I think they'll find a ton of minutes for them to rest this season.
It's always easy for armchair quarterbacks like me to be like, oh, we just came off of finals where Tatum played too many minutes. Take it easy. Then I think about being Joe Mazzulla and, look, you're coaching to win. You're coaching to prove yourself. Everything matters. So I totally get why he's done it. And good for him. He's stuck to his guns in terms of we're going to start good and not dig the hole that we did last year. Let's make things easier down the road.
Look no further than the award-winning 24 Auto Group. With over 2,600 vehicles in stock, the brands you love, backed by the savings and service you can count on. Visit today or shop online at 24autogroup.com.
We're kicking off fall with big savings at State Line Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram.
Lease a new Ram 1500 for $369 a month during Ram Power Days.
Hurry in, and you'll be saying,
I got mine at State Line.
All right, 6. Who's the biggest threat in the East?
Milwaukee, without a doubt. Milwaukee, without a doubt.
Who's number 2 then? I think it might be Cleveland.
I was getting ready to say Cleveland. I think Cleveland poses a different problem. It was early. We played them twice, really quick. We had them one, then play a few days later. But they just have like to me the team, they have size
Yep.
on the backside. Then they have guys that are attackers that get into the paint that force you to start rotating, and they can knock down shots when they have to. They're two guys, they're two playmakers, can knock down threes, they can create for themselves, they can get in to penetrate your defense, they can finish at the rim, and then they also can make plays at the rim and make plays for others. So Cleveland is definitely a threat. I'll probably say that those are the two teams. I mean,
it feels like those three have sort of separated themselves. Like
Yeah.
Miami starters are starting to play better.
I just don't feel that Miami, even though I know they'll always be there and you can never count them out. I just look at their roster and to me, from top to bottom, I don't think that their roster is better. Do they have some guys at some positions that better than our guys? Yes, but I think our two guys are better than any two guys that they got.
Yeah, and like
Even though Jimmy Butler's a beast.
he's a beast. Like
dog.
just don't let the games be close at the end, as we
Right.
saw. And I feel like you're in a good position. How do you feel about Philly?
I just feel like Philly is going to do Philly things, and somehow at the end, it's just not going to come together for whatever reason. And I hate to see it for Doc and
Right.
Sam over there as well, and that whole coaching staff. But at the same time, it's just like, I don't know. It
just
almost
doesn't feel-
it almost
yeah.
feels like there's always something missing or something just doesn't go their way.
Yeah.
They don't get that bounce. So I'm not really Philly doesn't scare me like
When-
Cleveland or Milwaukee.
Right. And when Embiid goes out and has those 56-point games, that's when I'm like, oh yeah, man, that's a beast to go up against. But then you watch him in the playoffs, he can't do it every night.
Yeah, and then nobody else is getting, if he's getting 56, nobody else
Right.
is getting
Exactly. All right. 7. Is this offense sustainable? Are the Celtics going to have a historic offense by the end of the year?
Well, I don't know if they could continue to hit the 3 at that clip, and they don't have to hit the 3 at that clip if they continue playing the way they are. And it is sustainable, to answer your question, because they are moving the ball. It's not like the ball's sticking. They're not reliant on one guy or two guys to do it. Again, it's a long list of guys that step up and can make things happen. So if they continue just to share the ball, and Sam Hauser said it in his press conference, he said, we play for each other.
Yeah.
And if they continue to do that, you're not only going to see them sustain this offense, but their defense as a whole is going to get better too.
Man, it's just crazy because there's still like 3 parts of every game that I say, oh, they were in a little bit of a funk. They go into like a little bit of a lull. And then you look up and they're on a historic pace because the 3-point shooting is so crazy. All right. Number 8, we ended on this, which has been the big story line up here for pretty much the entirety of the season. Can Jason Tatum win MVP? And what is necessarily in your mind is the pathway? Like he's playing like an MVP. What else has to go right in order for him to be actual MVP?
Well, continue to put up numbers, right? And the way he's evolving as a two-way player and a defensive player, continue to do that, because then that's also showing that he doesn't have any holes in his game. He's not a guy that you could go after on the defensive end. He's just, all he is offense, and he doesn't play any defense. No, he's giving us everything right now. So if he continues to do that, I mean, the numbers that Luka's putting up is crazy. But if he continues to play the way, and the record continues to be the best in the league, those two things combined, you have to look at that, and you have to take that in consideration. The only thing that if we continue to win and he puts up these numbers, the only thing that will stop him from winning the MVP would be some astronomical numbers that somebody is putting up. And that would be the only thing. I mean,
that's what I can't figure out. Like, what is Luka going to average in order to like somehow?
I can't think he's going to continue to average 35,
right?
But every night he gets 36 or something, right?
I mean, even SGA coming on now. I'm like, oh my god!
But they're not going to win enough games,
right?
I mean,
of course,
he's going to get most improved player,
which is all that he should. Like, that's the step for him, and then he'll be in that actual conversation. But yeah, for me, the roadmap is stay ahead of the Bucks, finish with like the historic offense, or at least something close to it. And I think it's going to be hard for voters to be like, he's the best offensive player on the best offensive team of all time and the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. How is he not the MVP?
Right.
Like the Mavs aren't going to be number 1 in the West. So I think that's like the one thing that he's got going for him. He's just got to stiff arm Giannis, and then we'll see. Hey, it's awesome having you here in Boston.
Oh man, I love being out here.
You sure you don't want the background with your mountains and coyotes and
no, I'm tired of that. The little hot out. I needed to get a cooler climate.
Yeah.
So here I am.
There we go. All right. Anyhow, thank you so much. It's just kind of wild. It's we'll get accused of drinking a lot of green Kool-Aid on this program because we tend to focus on the good, but I keep wondering, like, where's the bad? Certainly you would have liked to see them show a little bit better against Cleveland, maybe get to the finish line, one of those 2 games. but they're 12-1 against everybody else in the league. And I was really worried about that Atlanta game being a trap game for this team. No Brogdon, no Malcolm, no Marcus, no Rob. Gallinari's on the bench down there. Like, they got a starting 5 worth of talent on your bench that night. And yet, even on a night where Jason Tatum doesn't have it, these guys go out there and find a way to keep it going. The vibes have been off the charts. And, I talked about that after the Oklahoma City game, where the Celtics just kind of limping through it, win a game they weren't going to win. That post game with Marcus on the court and just everybody jumping on top of him. And it felt like a moment. It felt like a little glimpse into the chemistry, like how these guys are feeling about each other, about the success of the season, just ultimately the maturation of this team. Everything that we worried about coming into the season and coming off last year's finals, like Jason Tatum's consistency, the team's turnover woes, the bench, all those things have been shorn up in the first 15 games. Tatum is an MVP because he's got so few holes in his games right now. The Celtics, I think, were second in the NBA in turnover percentage, at least coming into this week. And I can't imagine they went very far. And then you've got the bench, which, Sam Hauser, if Gallinari doesn't get hurt, does he get the opportunity? And now he's out there thriving. Just feels like this team is in a really good place. And that little dark cloud that hovered. And the other thing that Marcus Smart said that night was, this team came in with expectations. Then all of a sudden the scandal with Ime and the injuries, there's a lot of questions about this team. Even the 3-2 start, 3 wins, but then they kind of hit the bump in the road. How would that go? How would Joe Mazzulla fare being thrust into that coaching role? And here we are. And just everything is coming up Celtics right now. And I do think there's still going to be some bumps in the road. I can't imagine it's going to be this blissful. And yet you feel really good about the trending, where this team is trending, like how they're playing, and everything about it right now is really good. Get those minutes down, keep Jason Tatum fresh. Let's see what happens when Rob comes back. I know I'm already preparing for like what that's going to look like. I think defensively it's going to be great. Offensively, they get some high expectations based on the way they're playing right now with the court really spread out. But Rob on the glass and kicking it ahead to players and just dominating the offensive glass the way he can potentially do that. Just feels like this thing might even have another level to go to as the Celtics sort of figure out what that balance is and how Rob fits in. But the games don't stop. So, right after this, we're getting ready for the Pelicans. Will they have Zion? Even if they don't, they've been rolling. So this thing keeps on cruising. I want to thank you all for checking out the post-game pods, having a lot of fun putting all those together. And giving you sort of an immediate reaction after games. I hope those are enjoyable, and then kind of finding these spots during the week to take a step back and look at the bigger picture here. But man, Celtics 12-3, and the big picture is pretty bright. So everybody go like, subscribe, check us out on the YouTube page. We'll catch you next time on the Celtics Talk Podcast.
Kick off fall with game-winning deals at Route 9 Nissan.
Lease a new Rogue Sport for $289 a month. That's right, just $289 a month.
Score your game-winning deal now and visit today or online anytime at Route9NissanAuto.com.
We're kicking off fall with big savings at State Line Subaru.
Like a new Subaru Crosstrek. Drive home for just $299 a month. That's right, only $299.
Score big savings today. State Line Subaru, a driver's best friend.